It is time for another professional match of StarCraft 2, and what I got for you today is a Zerg vs Protoss played on Belshir Vestige. Now this is actually a really old map, but I'll talk about that in just a little bit, because it's pretty interesting. But regardless, first off, let's introduce the players. Spawning in the bottom right corner of the map, we have none other than the red Zerg player known as Nerchio. And his opponent spawning all the way on the other end of the map, and it actually looks like he may very well be going for a quick expansion. He is known as the blue Protoss, and he's known as ShoWTimE. Now, like I said, this is a map that actually used to be around in StarCraft 2's history, I suppose, right? Quite a couple of years ago at this point. I believe it was like Heart of the Swarm times, if I'm not mistaken. This map was actually in the latter map pool as well, and it's been quite some time. Now, when I initially heard that they were bringing this map back, I actually thought it sounded really cool, because some of the best maps in history of StarCraft 2, I can remember very fondly, and this was definitely one of them, one of the maps that I personally really enjoyed playing. However, I've been finding one thing very tricky on this particular map, and that really goes for all three races, and that is getting a fourth base. Either you take it right here on the eastern end of the map, I guess, if you would spawn in the bottom corner, or you take it right here on the other end, but both of them, you just sort of expand to watch your opponent, which can become very tricky. And in all honesty, if you compare it to, like, map sizes of modern maps, I suppose, or, like, modernly created maps in StarCraft 2, this map is definitely on the smaller end, whereas in the past, the maps, generally speaking, were a little bit smaller, just in general, and it seemed like this map was just much larger in my memory. But regardless, we do indeed see that quick expansion right now from Nerchio, as well as from his opponent right here, ShoWTimE. He's got that Nexus already going up here on the low ground. Nerchio was forced to take the third base location after the natural ended up getting blocked. That is one of the things that he hasn't really been bothered by all too much. I've been seeing this in pretty much all of the Zerg vs Protoss games where he plays. He basically just, gets the probe into the natural, and he just doesn't care at all, and he just goes straight for the third base expansion instead. Now, interestingly enough, actually, he is transferring a couple of drones to watch that third base location. Not something I've seen him do a whole lot of, but regardless, he is getting himself the metabolic boost upgrade, while that first adept is being chrono boosted out right now for ShoWTimE as well, as he will be able to start harassing for just a little while. Now, the first Zerglings are indeed out. They will be able to shoo away the probe right here, and with that, he opens up the opportunity to potentially go for the expansion as well, and it looks like that is indeed what we're going to be seeing. Now, the Protoss has decided, indeed, what his tech of choice will be. Usually, Protoss will have to decide if they want to go for robotics or Twilight or Archon drops or any kind of strategies just like that right about right now. And indeed, we do see that Stargate go up here for ShoWTimE, which means that, well, he's more than likely going to be producing a bunch of Stargate units, but that also immediately means that as soon as the Zerg player scouts this, he can start droning rather aggressively, because there's not a whole lot of gateways out here just yet, and I wonder what ShoWTimE is going to follow this up with. He may very well be going for the Oracle play. That is something that we have been seeing quite a bit of, and yes, we do indeed see that Oracle being produced right there in the Stargate, but of course, the Zerg player does have quite a lot of time to scout this out as well. Now, currently, he's not getting the Overlord speed upgrade. He did pull the drones out of the gas there, but it looks like he's just simply blindly making the Spore Crawlers. I love this from Nerchio's point of view. Obviously, he knows ShoWTimE very well. ShoWTimE is one of those players that has got a very wide variety of builds. Generally speaking, he does play a more macro-focused strategy, but the timing right here on that Spore Crawler is definitely to counter any kind of proxy Oracle play. Usually, you get it right around 4 minutes or so. Nerchio got it right here at like 3 minutes and 20 seconds, a little bit sooner than that even, so he would have been totally safe against all of that aggression. But regardless, the Adepts have made their way across the map, and very shortly, that Oracle will be joining them as well. And one thing to note, there is no Spore Crawler right here in the third base location. There are a few Queens, of course. They will be able to do quite a little bit of work, but eventually 5 or actually even 6 drones right now end up falling with that Oracle going straight into the main, and in total, that one ended up getting 3 kills as well. So 7 drones in total going down here for the Zerg player, and that is definitely not what you want as a Zerg at this point in time. I mean, sure, he managed to defend there reasonably well, but he did not have enough Zerglings to deal with the Adepts, and this is going to get scary very fast. A couple more drones. Apparently, we'll have to pay for this with their life. The Queens eventually will shoo it away, and indeed, that Oracle is gonna, have to get on out of there as well. But I'm starting to get a little bit worried here for the Zerg, as a lot of economy was indeed denied. Now, one thing to note, right? Going for that Stargate opener here does sort of force the Protoss to not be able to get their expansion nearly as quickly as they would like to. And eventually, right around the 5-minute or so mark, that third base does indeed go down, which is really like the latest that you generally see it in the professional scene. It looks like the Protoss will not be scouted just yet, as that Overlord is just slightly out of position, but I'm sure that Nerchio is gonna make the assumption right now, as he's already getting himself that Hydralisk Den, he's getting himself an Evolution Chamber right now as well, and he's gonna be able to start droning up quite greedily, knowing that, well, at this point, he certainly knows, right? Knowing that that third Nexus will go up very shortly, and we will have to see a tech switch here from the Protoss very soon. It looks like the Adepts are not, or rather, the Oracles are not quite done just yet. They're gonna try and do a little bit more work, but we do indeed see that robotics facility go up right now. Nerchio has indeed spotted that one as well, and he's also scouting about with an Overseer just to try and get as much vision as possible and really check out how much how many rather unit producing structures there are, as well as how many gateways and how many you know, upgrades are being researched at this point in the game. And it's actually even double robotics. I wonder if he actually, yeah, he does indeed see that, so that's a huge indication there for the Zerg. Knowing that he now knows that there are indeed 2 robos out, I wonder what this will trigger for him. Now, one thing to note, right? Like I said, on this map, it is very tricky to get yourself a 4th base, and he's gonna need it with all of the drones that he's currently creating. In particular, if you want to play the Hydra Roach strategy, which it seems like it is going to be the case right now. Revelation, by the way, does spot all of this for the Protoss player, but it does seem like that is going to be the case, and it looks like he's going to be taking the 4th base location, rather, on the western end of the map. And that's going to be a very tricky one to defend into, because ShoWTimE can just simply walk across the map and start damaging it right away. And he may very well decide to do so very shortly, as more and more gateways are indeed on the production tab. However, the Zerg player apparently now satisfied with the amount of drones that he has. He's going to start producing a whole lot of Hydralisk and a very large army here indeed. Now, really very little harass here happening so far. Actually, is that... Ooh, man, there's so much production right now. He's gonna go for Mass Immortal. Very interesting. There are no lurkers out or whatever just yet, which is generally speaking the reason why you want to be getting so many Immortals. But then again, ShoWTimE very well knows Nerchio as well, and Nerchio has been favoring a lot of lurker-based play, at the very least as of late. There's no lurker den. Okay, no, I was gonna say there's no lurker den just yet. But right as I say that, of course, the caster curse, it strikes again. Right as I say that, he morphs that Hydralisk Den into the lurker den as well, and he's gonna be able to get those out very shortly. And actually, like, the perfect counter for Protoss, generally speaking, is gonna be something along the lines of Immortals and Archons, and those are really the types of units that he will need to try and deal with this. Now, the robotics bay is going up now as well. Of course, disruptors deal with lurker-based play brilliantly as well, and while I don't think he knows about it just yet, he will be figuring it out here right now with the Oracles heading into the main base, and they will indeed find out that there is that Hydralisk Den that's being morphed into a lurker den. Now, apparently Protoss also going for that 4th base location, Overlord in position to start pooping some creep on this fort as well, to just delay it just for, you know, a little while longer. It doesn't take as long anymore for the creep to dissipate, but there are a lot of Immortals out here already, and he's still producing a couple. Actually, no disruptor play this time around. I love this. ShoWTimE instead going straight up into double Colossi production, something reasonably uncommon, and something that, you know, did get buffed up in one of the more recent patches, but something that we still haven't seen as much, as people seem to have been favoring the disruptor play quite a little bit. But of course, Colossi are great at these sort of high ground scenarios, right? Of course, they deal a lot of damage, in particular to Hydralisk and whatnot, as they just sort of melt. Very tricky engagement here. Nice force fields do indeed go down, picking off a bunch of those units. However, that blink forward on the Stalkers, very, very greedy as well. Immortals from the back, however, shelling away at these Hydras. And while they may not be the most powerful units at dealing with these Hydralisks, once again, beautiful force fields going down here by the Protoss player, simply just cutting off so many of these units. And indeed, he does force the Zergling follow-up here, but the Colossi are gonna be able to deal with Hydralisk and Zerglings for breakfast very, very easily. He's gonna have a really hard time countering this with the army that he's got right now. Spire is on the way. He will be able to start producing I don't know if he has actually seen the Colossi at this point. I guess he must have, but regardless, he will be able to start up those Corruptors very shortly, which is a great counter to indeed this Colossi-based play. And it's kind of funny, casting this game right now in 2017 on a map like this, right? It could have very well been a Heart of the Swarm game, I suppose, at this point, other than the fact that there are indeed Lurkers out. Now, Lurkers can do a ton of damage to Protoss units. Of course, we do see that extended thermal lance just about to finish up as well, giving those Colossi an extended bunch of reach here to really make it significantly easier to connect with the Zerg units. But I wonder if there are enough Zerg units out here already. ShoWTimE has got himself a really nice supply lead, and so far Zerg has not really been able to infiltrate the Protoss' army just yet. I mean, he's been fighting very efficiently, and he's been able to secure himself a solid economy, and he is going to be able to get himself a hive up here as well. But if Protoss is allowed to max out, like it seems to be the case so far, this can become very tricky very fast. And I love this move. Look at that. ShoWTimE moving with two separate armies, trying to catch whatever he can. He's making sure that he's got part of his army here to defend his bases. And of course, he can just simply get on out of there with those force fields. I mean, with some proper force fields, you can almost always get your army to safety. And he's going to be able to clear up creep on the other end of the map as well. Beautiful move here by ShoWTimE. Not really, you know, grouping all of his units up in one big clump, and rather focusing together while he's eventually going to be able to build up a massive amount of units. And indeed, the last little bit of supply right now is being spent on those disruptors. They will be able to start dealing a lot of damage to this Zerg force, because indeed the Lurkers are out now. The Protoss is aware of it, and he will need to start responding here accordingly. Now look at this though, so many Protoss units. There is no centrifugal hooks being researched just yet. It's just about to finish up actually, but here we go. The Protoss is going to start moving onwards. Of course, beautiful force fields once again, locking in such a big part of that army. And while a single Colossi does end up falling, and he does get the sniper right there on the Observer as well, so the Protoss is going to be forced to retreat as it cannot see the Lurkers any longer, unless he's got another Observer here somewhere. This is still a very nice fight there for ShoWTimE, just simply securing himself a really big army, and he's just gonna be pushing forward here once again, right? Those Lurkers though, really keeping the Protoss units at bay. A single disruptor hit, trying to get some you know, lucky pot shots off, I suppose, but the Zerg is on the prowl. He's trying to move forward. Huge ditch rustler hit actually once again does connect with all of those Zerg units, and a lot of the Banes indeed will end up falling. Some of the Protoss units, however, are indeed eating those Lurker shots, and the Lurkers, they deal so much damage to armored units in particular. It looks like, at least for the time being, Nerchio has pushed ShoWTimE back, but ShoWTimE still with that supply advantage, still making sure that he gets a big army. Now, we do see the Great Aspire morph in here as well for the Zerg player. A couple of these queens do end up falling, which is a big deal because they are very good at transfusing these Brute Lords, and I wonder if there currently is enough time here for the Zerg to start moving onwards. Beautiful move here by ShoWTimE, pushing right at the correct moment to make sure that he gets some really nice connections. Nice blink forward there, picking up a couple of the disruptors, but with that, there was indeed enough time for all of those Lurkers to start connecting to this army, and a lot of the Stalkers do indeed end up falling, and all of the Colossi are now taken care of, and there are no longer any of them out on the map. And indeed, a second Stargate did get produced here as well. He's going to be able to start getting double Tempest at a time here, knowing that his opponent indeed is going to be morphing in those Brute Lords. And once again, right, the Lurkers providing so much value for the army. Ooh, beautiful force fields once again, though, really halting that Protoss product, or halting that Zerg advancement rather, but the Lurkers once more burrowing up. Nice unburrow there. Beautiful move there actually by Nerchio. That is one of the most tricky things to do, guesstimating where the disruptor hits are gonna go and then uprooting your units in time. And at this point, Zerg is starting to become really very powerful. He's got himself a 5th base here up to the western end of the map, very close to the Zerg's or the Protoss' main base rather. These Tempests will be able to shoot at that very easily if he would obtain vision. But these Lurkers are really paying for this match so far, because the thing is, they are buying the Zerg so much time, and that is such a nice advantage that you can indeed get as a Zerg player, because they just simply force the Protoss to go home after sniping those Observers. Now, once again, these, oh my god, so many hits going down though. Also, Storm being available now, but all of those Disruptors that were in the front will have to pay for that with their lives, and it looks like actually Nerchio may very well be allowed to get this base up as well. A couple of Zealots have made their way across across the map. Apparently, they did somehow manage to get past the lurker play here, but eventually, they do end up falling here as well. A couple of Brute Lords are currently out, and a few drones indeed do end up falling, but here's the thing about Brute Lords, right? They're very, very slow, and there's not a whole lot of creep spread out here anymore, and I'm starting to worry just a little bit, because how is Zerg gonna maneuver around if the Protoss decides to dash into the 5th base and then move down from his 4th towards the Zerg's main and natural? Brute Lords are on the high ground right now. Of course, there are Tempests out, so Tempests are great at dealing with these units. The Lurkers are trying to move forward here, trying to burrow those in the correct location, but it looks like the Protoss is just simply holding his ground and he's sitting back. Slowly, it looks like the Protoss once again is being forced back, and it looks like Nerchio is giving the XD right here after mismicroing a couple of the units, and slowly, it seems like ShoWTimE is advancing in this match. While Nerchio goes for a couple of Protoss marks right there, giving him the icon of all of the Protoss units. I guess he's trying to indicate that he just got Protossed. But I've got a feeling here that ShoWTimE just simply ended up outplaying him. Beautiful moves here by ShoWTimE, really showing him who's boss in this particular instance. Of course, I'm a massive fan of Nerchio. I love copying his strategies, but I love the way that ShoWTimE was maneuvering around that map, though. Rather than keeping all of his units in separate clumps, or in one big clump, he was really trying to make sure that he got everything, you know, split up. And he cleaned up creep on both ends of the map, making it really, tricky right here for the Zerg player to advance onwards. And eventually, with a little bit of micro, ShoWTimE ended up taking out his opponent in a beautiful game right here. So I hope you enjoyed watching this one. If you did, make sure you hit that like button down below. And if you want to see more, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well so you get a notification as soon as I upload more. And while you're at it, you can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Links are in the description. I want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, alright? And I will see you in the next one.